Since Giovanni van Bronckhorst came back to Rangers, they have won 8 and drawn 1 of his first 9 games in charge. The only draw was away to Lyon in the Europa League. Ange Postecoglou joined Celtic in the summer and has already picked up a piece of silverware just half a year into his reign. Giovanni van Bronckhorst is 46 years old, whilst Ange Postecoglou is a full decade older at 56. But who is a better manager? Who has won more? Brother Walfred, the founder of Celtic here, coming in as a very useful wind blocker for me right now. Please do remember to hit that like button before we get on with this video, and subscribe if you're new. We've just hit 69,000 subscribers, so a massive thank you to everyone who's subscribed. It really does mean the world to me. And if you're a Celtic or Rangers fan, let me know what your thoughts are of your new managers, Gio and Ange. And if you're not a Celtic or Rangers fan, let me know in the comment section below which manager you would want at your club. And you might be thinking, or you may have thought and haven't really looked into it, that Ange Postecoglou is a fairly strange name for an Australian. Well, it is, and he actually wasn't born in Australia. He was born in Athens in Greece in 1965, and his full name is Angelos Postecoglou. His father lost his business after the 1967 military coup in Greece. We think of Europe as being kind of safe nowadays, and military coups seem like something that happened in way further lands than this continent that we live in. But yeah, just 55 years ago, there was a military coup in Greece, which meant the Postecoglou family had to flee. Shows how quickly things can change in the world. Postecoglou and his family left Athens when he was only a small boy, only about 5 or 6. And in 1970, they left by boat and they arrived on the shores of Melbourne. In a recent interview that I saw on the Open Goal channel with Slaney and Cy Ferry, where they interviewed the Celtic manager, Ange Postecoglou, he spoke about times when he was in Oz that his father would wake him up in the middle of the night to watch random football games. He said to get a nudge in the middle of the night, and he knew that meant that his dad had put the telly on and he had to get up and watch the game, and that's where his kind of love of the game was born. And yeah, I lived in Australia for 3 or 4 years, and I can tell you that I had to get up at loads of weird and wonderful hours to watch football from all around the world. I had to watch the Champions League final, Liverpool-Tottenham, in the casino in Sydney, because it was one of the only places open at 3 in the morning that still served alcohol, so I could actually watch the game. So yeah, I feel Ange's pain when trying to keep up with football from Australia. He played Aussie rules predominantly as a kid, but he joined South Melbourne at the age of 9. And why am I taking you around here? Well, I know for a fact that there is an Ange Postecoglou poster just around this side of the stadium. Here we go, look, with the gate just behind, sadly. But yeah, look at that. There he is, Big Ange. When he joined South Melbourne at the age of 9, he started to obviously get better at football, and he eventually went on to play for the first team, where he was a rapid fullback who liked to get up and attack. Injury sadly cut his playing career short, but he did earn 4 caps for the Australian national team and won a few leagues and cups with his beloved South Melbourne. So Big Ange did actually start his managerial career off at South Melbourne as well. And I've got a list of teams that he's managed and things that he's won, and it is quite outstanding actually. So South Melbourne, yeah, that was his first job. He won successful National Soccer League titles. It's no longer called the National Soccer League anymore in Australia. It's the A-League, but he basically won them 2 domestic titles. He also won the Oceanian Champions League. Oceania, of course, incorporates New Zealand, teams from Fiji, so teams from Australia were always going to win that competition, but it did mean that they qualified for the 2000 Club World Championship, in which they played against Manchester United, of all teams. After South Melbourne, he went on to manage Australia's youth teams at various levels, where he won seven titles with under-17s, under-19s and under-20 teams. He then went to manage a team called Panathinaiki from Greece, 3rd division team in Greece. He then moved back to Australia to manage Whittlesea Zebras, who are a local Melbourne team. They just played regional competitions. But he got his big break in 2009 when he became the manager of A-League side Brisbane Roar. Yes, the Australian Soccer League had been rebranded to the A-League at this point, and he won them back-to-back titles. It's weird in Australia, you can win the league but not win the championship. You get a trophy if you come top of the league, but then you play a final against the team that's second, the grand grand final for the championship trophy, and he won the league twice but won the championship once, I believe. But also he had an unbeaten record of 36 games, which is a record in Australia even to this day. So yeah, an unbelievable record of 36 games unbeaten, which is a record in Australian football. He left Brisbane Roar after all that success and went back down to Melbourne. Brisbane is in Queensland, where it's really hot and tropical, and he moved back down to Melbourne, where it's still hot in the summer but freezing during the winters. And yeah, he didn't stay there long. He only stayed there for around about a year before he became the manager of Australia's national team. I guess this is where he really put his name on the worldwide map a little bit more, where he won Australia the 2015 Asian Cup. I know that when we spoke about his time at South Melbourne, we spoke about them winning the Oceania Champions League, but in more recent years, Australian teams have been playing in the Asian Champions League, and the Australian Football Federation have been playing in Asian competitions. So instead of playing Fiji for the Oceania version of the Euros now, they play in Asia, so a lot tougher competition. And he actually won them their first ever Asian Cup in 2015, which is quite amazing. Actually, yeah, look, talking about the Asian Cup, look, there is Nakamura, one of Celtic's greatest Japanese players of all time. And of course, they've just signed 3 new Japanese players and getting on to Japan. So yeah, after Ange Postecoglou managed Australia, in which he actually took them to a World Cup as well. He qualified for 2 World Cups, but managed at one. He left before another. He played the 2014 World Cup in the group that incorporated Spain and Holland and Chile, so a really tough group. But the Australians were said to be really proud of the efforts of the team, who actually did really well considering the tough opponents. But yeah, shortly after his stint as Australian manager, he joined Yokohama F Marinos in Japan, which is where he obviously knows so much about Japanese players from, why he's bringing so many here. The Japanese revolution that is happening at Celtic is so exciting to see. It was a difficult start for him. They were kind of almost getting relegated in the relegation zone, having a really poor start under his tenure, but they were the 2nd highest scorers, but they had the 3rd highest amount conceded as well. So some really exciting games where they were obviously playing attacking football, which is what he loves to do now still as well. Soon enough though, he turned that around and brought success to them as well, winning their first league title in 15 years. Unbelievable, really, what a job he did there. He left there and came to Celtic. So yeah, all throughout his career, really, with the exception of maybe Melbourne Victory and his time at the Australia youth team came to an abrupt end after some poor qualification results, he's had an amazing career. He's had some really big success as manager. He's done really well. Even as a player, he won quite a lot as well. So to be fair to Ange, you have to look at his CV and really applaud it with how impressive it is. On an individual level, let me just read out what he's won. So he won the National Soccer League Coach of the Year in 97-98. He's got an Australian Sports Medal in 2000, PFA Manager of the Year 2010-11, A-League Coach of the Year 2010-11, PFA Manager of the Decade 2015, AFC Coach of the Year 2015, and the longest undefeated streak in Australian sporting history with 36 games. From what I could find out online, it isn't just soccer, football, that their unbeaten streak relates to. It is every single sport that the Australians play involving kicking. That is Aussie rules, that is rugby union, rugby league, soccer, so some record that he holds. And yeah, he's even won a lot individually as well as with his teams. And look at this, it's absolutely teeming with life here outside of Celtic Park, and I've already been here for ages walking about trying to chat to a few people, but as you can see, no one about. So yeah, I was hoping to chat to maybe, just like I say, even one fan about this, but I have done a poll on my Instagram anyway, so I'll be taking you through that towards the end of this video to see what my followers think who is the best manager. So we'll be finding that out a little bit later on, so make sure you stick around for that. I'm going to head down to Ibrox now, where I've got some really interesting stuff to tell you about Gio. They've both had really interesting lives, Gio and Ange, so I think you're going to want to hear a little bit more about it. So yeah, I'll see you down at Ibrox very shortly. It's safe to say that Giovanni van Bronckhorst has had a little bit more of a decorated playing career than Ange Postecoglou, but they do share some similarities growing up in their mixed cultures, of course. Ange was born in Greece but grew up in Australia, whereas Giovanni van Bronckhorst's heritage and culture is linked to Indonesia and to the Netherlands. Gio van Bronckhorst was born in Rotterdam to his Indonesian Dutch father and his Indonesian mother. She was of, and I hope I'm saying this right, Moluccan descent, which is an area of Indonesia way out towards the east, towards Papua New Guinea. Indonesia is a huge country. It covers so much land, loads of islands across a massive part of the world. And yes, she was from the far, far east of that cluster of nations, cluster of islands, the nation of Indonesia, towards Papua New Guinea. Giovanni van Bronckhorst joined Feyenoord at the age of 7 and signed a pro contract when he was 15. He won the Dutch Youth League in 1991 before joining RJK Waalwijk, I think you pronounce it. Who knows, my pronunciations are awful. Yeah, he was there on loan for a year before his breakthrough season at Feyenoord in 1995/1996. He even played with future Celtic legend Henrik Larsson during his time at Feyenoord. A man who he knew quite well from his time with the Dutch youth team, Dick Advocaat, was the manager here at Ibrox and eventually bought him for Rangers for £5 million after not being able to take Feyenoord as far as Ajax and PSV were getting at the time. He wanted to move on to pastures new, which is when he came here for around £5 to £5.5 million. It's quite amazing really that they signed him for £5.5 million back in like the mid-90s, because right now you don't see how the old firm teams can even spend that much in this day and age. You look at the inflation that there is in football and you struggle to see how a Celtic or a Rangers, the money that's in Scottish football, can even spend £5 million on a player today. Like, I think Rangers' all-time highest fee that they paid was for Torrendre Flo back in the 90s as well, so that just shows you how little money Scottish teams have now compared to when they were really competing back in the 90s. Less of that though, and back to Giovanni van Bronckhorst. He stayed here for a few years, won 2 league titles, 2 Scottish Cups and a League Cup whilst here at Ibrox, before moving on to Arsenal, where he joined for £8 million. That was in 2001, and he won a Premier League and an FA Cup before an even bigger move to Barcelona. He won a couple of La Ligas whilst there and a few Super Cups as well, the Community Shield of Spain, whilst he was at Barcelona. But his biggest trophy of all came in 2006 when he played against his former team Arsenal in the final of the Champions League. He was the only Barcelona player in the squad that year to have competed in every single Champions League game, and of course they went on to win it as well, so he was a key part of that squad. Trophies aside, his biggest footballing achievement probably came when he didn't actually win something. He captained Holland as a player to the World Cup final in 2010. The score was 0-0 when he was subbed off, and eventually Spain would go on to win. The Andres Iniesta goal, of course. A bit of a boring final. I remember it mainly for De Jong's tackle on Xabi Alonso, which Howard Webb should have sent him off for. But yeah, eventually Holland would lose that final, and I think that was his last game as a player as well. He retired shortly after. But also, who remembers his goal in the semi-final against Uruguay? Surely one of the greatest World Cup goals of all time. Incidentally, just a little side note, look how well the new Edmonton house has come along. This is where eventually there's going to be like a Rangers hub, a museum in there as well. Of course, the trophy room inside of Ibrox is incredible. I've made a lot of Rangers videos. If you haven't seen them before, type in Footy Adventures and Rangers and my videos should come up. But yeah, their trophy room and stuff is incredible in there. I'm wondering how they're going to transition it from that into Edmonton House. But yeah, that's got a vlog written all over it once it opens. But it looks like it's going to be a while away yet, but they are making good progress. Despite retiring as a player in 2010, Gio van Bronckhorst's first managerial job came in 2015 after a series of coaching roles and assistant manager roles at his boyhood club, Feyenoord. And it was at Feyenoord where he finally got his chance at first team management, and it got off to a pretty good start. So on his managerial debut in 2015, Van Bronckhorst won 3-2 at home to Utrecht, with the penalty coming from Dirk Kuyt, the winning penalty there, winning goal coming from Dirk Kuyt, one of my favourite players growing up. In his first full season in charge, he led Feyenoord to the Dutch Cup, beating Utrecht in the final. In his second season, this is where it gets amazing, he won Feyenoord the league title, and it was their first league title in 18 years. The following season was opened with the traditional curtain raiser, the Community Shield type trophy that most nations play, and they won that against Vitesse. So yeah, he won trophy after trophy in his first couple of years. In December of 2017, they beat city rival Sparta Rotterdam 7-0. The team won the Dutch Cup again in 2018, beating AZ Alkmaar in the final final. So big derby wins, big cup wins, domestic trophies, league titles. Giovanni van Bronckhorst seems to be the man for the big occasions, especially for his boyhood club, Feyenoord. I think everybody knows about his time in China. He wasn't even there a year. That was during 2020. It couldn't have been easy to manage in China during 2020 with all the pandemic and stuff like that. It was hard enough being in Europe. I couldn't imagine how tough it was being in China, where obviously the virus came from, and all the strange lockdown laws and all their strange issues that they have as a nation. I imagine it wasn't easy for Ange to manage and live over there during 2020 especially. So yeah, he only had a 30% win record in the 11 months that he was there, and he eventually left after, like I say, 11 months to be closer to his family. But yeah, it wasn't going well for him anyway. And look, as you can see up here, look, here is the what Rangers have won on the side of the stadium. I love that they have this up here, the trophies that they won. 27 League Cups, 33 Scottish Cups, obviously the league titles, and the Cup Winners' Cup is around the other side, of which Giovanni van Bronckhorst has helped to add. He's helped add numbers to this as a player back in his playing days here for Rangers in the 90s and stuff. And yeah, can he add more as a manager? I personally think he will add more as a manager. Coming to Rangers and Celtic, I mean, you've got to be a pretty poor manager not to win anything. And I know that Rangers had a few managers before Stevie won stuff, but they were on the rebuilding process, so it's kind of understandable that like those guys didn't win start like the bigger sort of trophies and stuff like that. But yeah, I think to come to Rangers and Celtic and not win anything would be harder to do than to win something in my eyes. And the poll results are on screen right now as well. As you can see, the majority of my Instagram followers think that Gio is a better manager than Ange. That could be slightly skewed. I do think I have more Rangers followers than I have Celtic followers. It might be a fairly even split, but I do think even if it was completely 50-50, that it would still probably be a little bit more in favour of Gio. I think that people have him in a higher regard for what he's done in the game at the Barcelonas and the Arsenals and the Rangers and stuff like that, whereas Ange hasn't really done it in Europe before, which may be a reason why people don't think he's quite as good a manager as Gio, potentially. Gio, of course, has won an Eredivisie and a couple of Dutch Cups, but Ange has won more trophies, maybe not as prestigious trophies, you could argue, so you got to weigh that up. But do let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. I really want to hear from you. As you can see, again, outside at Ibrox, it's incredibly quiet, and I have asked a few people who didn't want to be on camera. The same at Celtic Park today as well. So yeah, I would love to hear what your thoughts are, and I hope you've enjoyed a few of the facts that I told you about Gio and Ange. I hope it gives you a bit of context about them, a little bit about their early lives as well, and kind of what makes them tick as managers today. Please do remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. It'd be great to see your little faces around here a little bit more often. I'll leave some videos on screen. Please do click on one to carry on watching. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.